My night has been made. Did I see traveling fools in the chat tonight? TF's in the chat. We need to rename this show. This is no longer about the 2024 SEC schedule release. TF's in the chat, and I see as a new member here at the Voice of College Football. All right, all of you are just as important. Welcome into the Voice of College Football on a Friday night. Talking college football with all of you on the eve of bowl season. I would call it bowl eve, but that just doesn't slide off the tongue quite as well as it's the eve of bowl season. 7 games tomorrow. And some interesting matchups. We will get to those if you care to. You ultimately produce the show. We leave the titles there. We certainly pick out the topics, but with your phone calls and with your comments and questions there in the chat, you ultimately produce the Voice of College Football. All right. We even had our set designer come in and redo the set. Took about 4 hours, I believe, 4 hours of Voice of College Football labor pay there to set up the SEC. Except for Neil, if you're with us or if you're watching later, we kept Nevada on the front row in honor of you. So the Wolfpack will not be playing in bowl season for a second consecutive year, but they are in the hearts and minds of the collective community here at the Voice of College Football. So in honor of Neil Campbell, bam, there's the Wolfpack. But the rest of it belongs to the SEC on this night. The SEC schedule release we will get to. Want to remind everyone that the Amazon link's in the description section of all the videos. And guess what? Including this one. So the Amazon link, when you do your Christmas shopping, same shopping experience, doesn't cost you a penny, takes away a few $1 trillion away from Amazon and delivers it here to the Voice of College Football. Hey, I'm still trying to catch Amazon in regards to total yearly income. We are oh so close. You can help us get over that threshold. And then when you do those Google searches, most influential, most massively rich, prosperous, wealthy companies worldwide, then you're going to see Amazon down the list because they're going to be funneling so much money to the Voice of College Football thanks to you. Same shopping experience, if I noted that. We will take a look, as we do each and every day, at the transfer portal because there's much to look at there. Comings and goings by the hour. Probably 2 or 3 more since the last time I looked, about 14 minutes ago. Transfer portal mania. Bowl mania as well. I should probably try to find that link, but on the community page here on the main channel, you only have a few short hours, roughly 15 or 16, to sign up for our bowl challenge here at the Voice of College Football. We will be giving out some swag, like some of the fancy stuff that I've got on here. This has become my favorite jacket. You probably guessed that. The top 25 that actually makes sense jacket. So be the best or be the second best or the third best. I think it will go with the top 3 qualifiers, the top 3 finishes in picking bowl games in the bowl challenge here at the Voice of College Football. Grab the link. It's on the community page right here. And we will look to dig that up and drop it in the chat. Okay. I was going to lead off with the SEC schedule for 2024. I love schedules. You guys know that. I hate the way college football schedules, but I love schedules, and I love to talk about schedules, dissect and criticize and complain about schedules. If they ever get this fixed, if they ever listen to me, what am I going to have to complain about then? I'll have to move on to item number 2, I guess. But we will take our calls here at the Voice of College Football. We are with you for a strong 90 minutes tonight. Let's do it. Power-packed 90 minutes. I'm not the marathon man tonight. I'm not doing 3+ hours. No, we can get this done. We can make it strong 90 minutes with all of you. So let's take some calls. I do want to get to the SEC schedule, the transfer portal, and possibly the bowl lineup on Saturday, although I got to admit, not necessarily an expert on most of the teams playing the likes of Georgia Southern and others on Saturday. All right, let's hit the phone line. We got Christopher here.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fine. What's up tonight?
Oh, I don't follow the SEC closely enough to really give much insight into that. So if you want to go to the next call, I guess that'd be all right. But so I guess they put out the new schedules already.
They put up the 2024 schedule. Yes.
Are there any notable games that you want to talk about?
Well, there will be a lot of notable games because it is the conference with arguably the best football and the best brands, and they've added 2 for next year, if you've heard, Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
One of the things we aim to do tonight is to not only look at the schedule, but we did this a few months ago when the Big Ten released its 2024 schedule. And because there's a change in scheduling format, look at each team and look at the way the schedule is currently formatted to see how much more difficult are these schedules going to be for each team than what they currently are.
In the Big Ten or in the SEC?
Well, the SEC, because the Big Ten, we did that a few months ago. We're doing it for the SEC.
Do they play, maybe you can help me on this one. Do they play 9 or 10, or I mean, how many games, I guess, are they playing in the per team per conference, I guess?
8.
Is it, oh, okay. So they're going to still have a, what do you call it? Kind of let more teams, I guess, affect the schedule a little bit. More teams outside their conference, I guess. Besides, I thought there was weren't they kind of considering maybe including another team? I mean, besides like maybe including make it a little bit, what you call it, a little bit more about the conference itself, I guess, than having to rely on other teams. Was that not a part of the program there?
So if I'm getting this, you're talking about going from 8 to 9 conference games.
Well, I mean, I remember
you're talking about it. Yes.
I know when, for example, the reason I bring it up is was it Delaney when he was at the Big Ten? I think one of the things that he did was I think it was probably a good idea if you want to know the truth. I think they eliminated one of the, I don't know what you call it. Maybe you can help me. Anyway,
they added a conference game.
Well, I guess, I mean, it's what they're doing is they're the idea being, I guess, that they're putting the conference first, I guess, before, what would you call the other part of it? The
non-conference.
Well,
they added a conference game. That's what Jim Delaney did as commissioner of the Big Ten. They used to play 8 conference games, and they added 1.
I think what they did, though, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is I think they took out an FCS team, is what they.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, absolutely. So they are no longer scheduling FCS teams.
Except for like 2 teams.
Yeah, there's some kind of stipulation there, but basically he had determined that there were too many FCS games on the Big Ten schedule.
Are you in favor of that sort of thing? Because I'm a little bit old school in my thinking. I kind of think people are like, I don't understand. In fact, I wanted to call in on one of your shows here not too long ago. It had to do with scheduling because the idea was that Liberty, because of their schedule, wasn't really in consideration for any playoff, and I'm not even saying they should have been there, but I don't know that it was because of scheduling, though. They made it like it was the scheduling that kept them from being in the. I'm not sure if that was really a fair criticism. Do you agree with that? Or I know that's taking it off the SEC, but maybe we shouldn't talk about it. But
we can talk about it. This is not an SEC show. We were just going to make a focus the SEC schedule, but we can do that anytime. So, yes, Liberty is not considered a playoff contender, nor were they barely in the top 25 because they do not play a competitive schedule compared to the other teams in the top 25.
It's G5. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. How do you go from saying it's a G5 to being it's not competitive? I mean, to me, that's like
Chris, let's not play this game tonight. There is no comparison between a group of 5 schedule and a Power 5 schedule. It's not even close. It's not. And Liberty played a horrible G5 schedule. They didn't even play a good G5 schedule.
Well, Jacksonville State, they're about as good as Boise State, in my opinion. I mean, you might not agree with that, but that's kind of where I have them, is right about where Boise State is.
Okay. Boise State is about the 7th or 8th or 9th best team on Washington's schedule.
Yeah, that could be. I mean,
Okay.
you could be right about that.
Okay.
Possible.
So again, I want to make something clear here, Chris, because we get hung up on this all the time. There's a difference between me giving due respect and credit to the athletes at all levels with all these teams, and I clearly do. But I have to evaluate the levels of play and the scheduling, and there is no comparison between a Liberty and the schedule that they played and a Power Five. So they were not and should not be considered for a college football playoff appearance.
Well, the only thing I want to raise up against that idea a little bit, if you don't mind, and I know this is, again, not about the SEC, and I apologize for that. I just kind of think when you have 4 positions and you have 4 undefeated teams, I mean, it's not, you don't really have to go to a committee. You can just say, well, we have 4 undefeated teams. Maybe 2 of them aren't as good as the other 2. Who knows? But that'll take care of itself. I don't quite understand how they could have messed this one up. In all honesty, I don't. To me, it's like it was one of those things where, you know, and I don't want to make it like a criticism of their intelligence, but I think a normal person would kind of like, you used this on me once before, so I'm kind of use it back on you. I could ask I don't have a kid, but could ask my niece, I guess, 20-year-old niece, what she thought, and she might come up with the same opinion as I do, that maybe if you have 4 positions and 4 undefeated teams, maybe the best way in this circumstance would be to put 4 teams in the 4 positions. And I guess if one of them gets blown out, I mean, that's the maybe the short part of it, but I'm not sure that this year wasn't one of those seasons where they had any excuse for not putting the 4 teams in that were undefeated. I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's kind of how I look at it.
So if my doctor suggests that I have some type of surgery, should I just ask some random person to see what their suggestion is?
Well, no, I think you're missing another point that I'm trying to make. I mean,
the point that you're missing, let me lay this out. I'll try it another way, Chris. This is the way I'll try it. In every state, there is obviously a high school football tournament, a championship playoff. Okay. And it's conducted in every state differently, and the criteria is different in every state, but it involves dozens of teams in every state. Okay. What if there were only, let's say there were only 4 slots in the playoffs, like in the college football playoff? Pick any state, the state of Idaho. They only select 4 teams to go to the state playoffs. And there were 3 teams. Let's say there were 4 teams. I'm sorry. Let's say there were 3 teams in the state that were undefeated. But there was a junior varsity team. There was a JV team somewhere that was undefeated, and they were considered to be the best JV team in the state. Should they be elevated to play in the state championship?
Well, I don't want to get into that, Mark, because Boise State was a junior college at one point. So I can go back to that Boise State analogy and feel justified in my position. I mean,
yeah, well, I'm not talking about what was going on 30 years ago. I'm talking about today. Liberty is playing a type of junior varsity compared to the varsity. They should not be considered to play in a playoff. They will next year because they're expanding the playoff and they're giving 1 token seat to the group of 5. But the comparison between the group of 5 and the Power 5 is just a ridiculous comparison to make. They're playing 2 completely different levels of football. It's not even close.
Well, 2-1. I mean, I agree.
Not close. It's not 2-1.
It is.
It's like 8 or 9-1 in wins.
No, it really isn't. But
no, I mean, it is. It's 8 or 9-1 consistently year to year. The Power 5 teams win 85 to 90% of the games against the group of 5. Case in point, the teams that played, and you will know this, the teams that played in conference championship games out of the group of 5, the very best of the group of 5 that played last Saturday, the Saturday before last, in conference championship games, those teams were 2-11 against Power 5 teams. 2-11.
I don't know, Mark. I'm not sure I followed that through there as far as what that really says, but
it says that they're nowhere close to Power 5 teams.
I think I have like a Troy ranked 16th right now.
I don't care where you've got them ranked. The teams that played in championship games in the group of 5 are not even near the worst of the Power 5 teams. On the flip side, when is the last time a conference championship team in the Power 5 lost to a group of 5 team? It's been forever. I don't have that answer off the top of my head. I could think about it. It's been forever.
You mean when Central Florida beat Auburn? I mean, I don't know. What do you expect? I'm not exactly sure what you're telling.
Auburn did not win the SEC that year.
Yeah, but they were almost in the playoffs. I mean, they were like one game from being in the playoffs.
Yes. I just made a statement about, so where does UCF play now?
They're in the Big 12.
Yes. So they play in the Power 5. So they're one of the 3 or 4 best schools in the group of 5 that have been elevated to the Power 5. So that is even further weakened the group of 5.
Well, at any rate, I thought I'd just explain to you, if you don't mind. I don't want to take up all your time, but the work that I do, it's not meant necessarily to put a undeserving team. In fact, it wouldn't have, if to your point or whatever. I'm not necessarily putting Liberty in the championship. I'm just saying it'll be interesting, I guess, maybe to see how they do. I have them roughly about the same level as Oregon as far as percentages. You might not think that really matters, but that'll at least be a good test to see if they're anywhere. Like you say, they're nowhere close to, I guess, a P5 or whatever. But again, it'll be one of those things probably where if they beat, I'm not saying they will, but but Oregon, they didn't have anything to play. It'll always twist it to where it won't just be about whether they can win. It'll be about something else. It'll be about whether Oregon really wanted to be in the game or something, because they can never just let it be what the result says. It has to be something else. So what is it going to take for a G5 to get the credit they deserve, Mark? Is it going to, I'm not quite sure I understand what's going to have to happen.
They collectively have to win games against the Power 5. They get the respect from me at the level of which they play.
I understand that. I guess I don't know, 2-11 or whatever. What is that? It's like 20% or something. I don't know.
It's like 18%.
I already told you the collective. So at the championship level, it's the same as that. All that really says is that's about what it is throughout the entire. That's not really that surprising. That's about what it. No, that's what it is about.
No, it's terrible.
No, it's what it is throughout the whole.
If you're successful 18% of the time, you're telling me that that's good.
I don't know that I said it was good. I'm just saying I already kind of know what the separation is, and it's not
exactly. So we know what the separation is. So I don't know what we're talking about. Liberty should not be considered for a playoff. They're not considered for a playoff. So that's one thing that the committee does correctly.
They might not advance in a playoff, but I think they should be considered for it. You're probably right.
Why? It's a waste of time.
Why is
they didn't play anybody. They played the worst teams in the country. They had a horrible schedule.
No.
Nobody in the group of 5 should be considered for a Power 5 playoff in the top 4.
Well,
and they really shouldn't even be, based on this season's performance. If there was a 12-team playoff, if you're talking about getting the best teams in the playoff, they shouldn't even be considered for that.
I know, and that's why I don't really agree that a playoff is really the right way to go, because you're not even going to give what the G5 deserve, which is at least a chance to show if they can play.
They are going to get a chance.
Well, I don't know if they will or not. That remains to be seen, because
no, it doesn't remain to be seen. We know what the format is starting next season, and they're going to get a spot.
It'll be
Chris, like let us know what else you would like to bring to the table. Then we'll go on to our next call.
Well, I already kind of told you what it was, but in my opinion, they had an opportunity to do the right thing and they didn't do it. So they're going to have to answer to that to somebody. The 4 undefeateds, 4 positions. To me, that's like, you don't even have to think about it. That's what you should do. And it doesn't matter whether Liberty's good enough. That'll show itself if they are or not. You don't have to make reasons for them not to be in it. They should have put all 4 of them in there. 4 undefeateds, 4 positions. That's what you do. I don't know that you can argue.
Not when they're playing different levels of football. We don't elevate a JV team to the varsity high school football playoffs because they're undefeated.
Well, you talked about SEC. I mean, they beat Auburn pretty good. I don't know what else you want them to do. I know that was New Mexico State, but what else do they need to do? They need to beat by 50 instead of 30? I don't know.
They need to play a different level of football and not lose 85 to 90% of the time.
They told me that they needed to beat a good team on their home field and beat them pretty good, and that's what they did. So at some point, I think you have to kind of maybe
just because one random team from the group of 5 beat one random team from the SEC. We already know that happens. There's 2 different levels of play. Chris, it is a freaking waste of time. And so we're done here arguing the group of 5 against the power 5. It's not even close. Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night.
This is the most moronic. Well, it's not. We have other moronic conversations with people here on a regular basis as well. So we appreciate you being here. I am the most patient man in the world. Many have told me here. So I was again tonight. But it's just, you would have to be a complete idiot. I don't believe Chris is. I believe maybe he just has a brain block or something, a mental block when it comes to this topic in various areas and paths. So this isn't the only one, but I will refrain from calling people morons and idiots. I will just say they are acting like idiots and morons. Let's say that. All right, let's go to our next call. TF, appreciate you being here. Maybe you're not hanging out right now, but telling us Traveling Fools became a YouTube channel member. So you can do that. It's easy to do. And you get my picks. Folks, did you see my tweet from a few days ago? And I don't want to turn you folks into gamblers by any stretch of the imagination. If you don't put a dime on a football game, please continue to not put a dime on a football game. However, if you already do, you take my picks, you would have won like $3,500 this year. Goodness gracious. I should start charging like $200 a month for those Patreon memberships. You kidding me? Daral MVP's here. What's going on, Daral?
Mark, I just want to applaud you for your conversation you had, Mark. I mean, you're just factually correct on that subject. The fact, honestly, Liberty is going to get in the playoffs next year, more likely to get in the playoffs than Georgia or Ohio State or any of these good teams, sickens and bothers me to no end. But, we got to pretend they have a chance for whatever reason. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and if they get their teeth kicked in for like 8 straight years, and then the 9th year they play a decent game and it's 34-21, then you're going to have a lot of people saying, see, they can play. They're just like he picked out the New Mexico State Auburn game out of the hundreds of games, whatever the number is. It's roughly, 2 to 3 times the number of Power 5 teams. So there's like 150 or so of these games that are played every year. And it's like clockwork. The Power 5 wins close to 90% of them. So
right. And we're going to take, and that's just for all Power 5 teams. We're taking the absolute best Power 5 teams.
Yes.
What rate would they lose at, you would suspect, Mark? Is it 1%?
I don't know if they're gonna be in that Michigan category.
Right. I mean, it's just not even fair. It honestly, for the health and safety of the Liberty players, they don't belong in the playoffs. I think it's more likely that a Liberty player absolutely has a career-ending injury than them winning a playoff game at all, or even being competitive.
It's also kind of ironic that this is being done right after arguably the 3 best programs, or 3 of the top 4 or 5, certainly in the group of 5, are taken out of the group of 5 and elevated to the Power 5.
Right. My ultimate goal is they eventually get to a place where they just take the 12 best teams. I don't want any auto bids. Just take the 12 best teams, have 11 of the 12 playoff spots be from the SEC and Big Ten. Now, I know, Mark, that is an objective, but I think you would agree more years than not, those are better teams than what we're going to get. Well, I don't want to see your Arizonas in there. I don't want to see your Clemsons, your Florida States, your Oklahoma States. I don't want to see those teams. Sorry, they're not good enough. Sorry.
You threw in Clemson.
Yeah, they're not good enough. Sorry.
Well, they have been good enough.
They have been, but right now they're not. This is a "what have you done for me lately" type of sport, Mark, and they're not good enough right now.
So how are you going to evaluate? Let's say whether it's Utah, Oklahoma State, Arizona, one of those candidates, Kansas State, wins the Big 12 next year. Let's say we go your direction, and it's just all about, let's select the 12 best teams in the country. And we've got a Big 12 champion who, I don't know what Arizona's schedule or Utah State's schedule look like next year, but most likely they're not playing. They've got a Power 5 game, non-conference, but it's probably not against somebody that we can really say, okay, well, they're playing LSU, or they're playing, Wisconsin or somebody like that. Typically, no, they're playing some other fairly lousy Power 5 team. So it only gives us some gauge on it. So anyway, the Big 12 champion probably wins that game outside the conference, like Utah against Florida, let's say. And then they go 8-1 in the conference. They go 11-1. You're going to leave them out.
I could. I would. I might. It depends what 9-3 teams or 8-4 teams potentially. Like if USC goes 9-3 next year, I think they're better than the 11-1 Big 12 team. We need to stop acting like records are going to matter going forward in the sport. Okay, they're not. I'm sorry. The Big 10 and SEC are just playing a different version of football, a better version of football. Well, I know that's going to make people upset, but it's just the way it is.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I would like to see it actually played out and proven. We've seen the SEC prove it, basically, and people don't even like for me to say that. And the last time we had this conversation, and then we laid out Michigan and Washington, and we had other conversations about the SEC in particular. I had all sorts of people making comments about me being an SEC lover. That has nothing to do with it. I don't care anything about the SEC. Believe me, I have no rooting interest in the SEC whatsoever. If anything, I root against the SEC on many occasions, but I just tell the truth. And there's been no comparison between these conferences for years and years and years. And it looks like the Big 10 has only had really one team. And again, a lot of Big 10 fans don't want to hear that. A lot of Michigan fans really only had one team that's been able to step up and challenge the SEC's best. But going forward, it looks like the Big 10 will be able to take on that challenge and run with it. But I would like to see it play out. I would like to see it proven.
Right, but this is why I'm going to specific teams next year and not saying conferences. Generally, USC, okay, if they go 9-3, they play Notre Dame, at Michigan, at Washington, neutral site against LSU, and home against Penn State. They win two of those teams and lose to three others. They're better than any Big 12 or ACC team that's 11-1, in my opinion.
I can't argue with that unless something drastically changes and somebody in the Big 12 becomes some kind of powerhouse force that they've not been. I don't see the Big 12, competing for a national championship. I've stated this many times. People have argued with me. We've done a Big 12 when we did had a number of Big 12 contributors on at the same time. Boy, did I get looks and arguments about that. And I said, who's won a national championship from the Big 12 in forever? The two schools that have, they left. They're gone.
Correct. And I hope, you know how you had your debates during the offseason? I hope you have that as a debate conversation. Can the ACC and Big 12 be competitive going forward? And Mike Ford brings up
I do think that the ACC can. I think that's a whole different deal because while I don't know that the conference, or don't believe that the conference is much better top to bottom, Florida State and Clemson have been extremely strong football programs, obviously.
Right. But my point is their brands and stuff are strong and they've proven it in the past. But we need to go by what's in the future, Mark. And I'm sorry, but these are weak schedules these teams are going to be playing compared to the SEC and Big 10. It just is that way. I can't help it.
That's where we got to run into a little nuance here because Clemson in the past has played in a weak ACC, but they have been decidedly the best team. And then they moved on to the playoff and they showed that they belonged.
Okay, let me throw this out for you next year. Next year, Clemson plays Georgia. Let's say they get absolutely killed in that game. They lose 45-14. They win every other game. Do they belong in the playoffs? In my opinion, it's questionable. I wouldn't say they definitely belong.
Well, I would think you're an astute college football fan. You prove that night after night. You will then look at, okay, well, Clemson did what against other top teams in the ACC, and what did those teams do outside the conference? Was there a Florida State, a Miami, a North Carolina, NC State that went out and showed that the ACC can be competitive with mid to upper tier teams in the other conferences?
Right. And my point is, I just don't think that's going to be the case going forward. I just don't see that happening going forward. Because look at Miami's win against Texas A&M. Texas A&M would be what, the 12th or 13th best team this year going forward? I mean, it's just the SEC is just so much deeper that these good, quote unquote, good teams may be 4-8 or 5-7.
Okay, well, you're throwing Oklahoma and Texas into the mix, obviously.
Well, you got to.
Okay, and Texas A&M went 7-5, so they went 4-4 in the SEC. I don't know.
Right, I don't see them continuing. I don't see them continuing that going forward. I see them taking a step back. It's going to be hard for your middle.
You're going to pick up one game against Texas or Oklahoma every year?
Yeah, I think those programs are better than Texas A&M.
Yeah, but they are right this second, but they don't have to be. It's not like set in stone. It's not like you're comparing Texas and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, but when I'm making a projection going forward, I'm going to use current and past data to help influence my opinion. And this is why people, I saw it in the chat earlier, say I was crazy for picking Alabama to blow out Michigan. I'm going off past precedent to influence my opinion going forward. That's all I'm doing. Now, if Texas A&M goes 9-3 in the SEC, that's a big win.
We can state this or try to measure this in a number of ways, but I'll say it like this. If Georgia/Alabama are the 10s of college football, or let's be a little bit more precise, out of a scale of 100, they're 97s and 8s in that range. I'd say right now with Texas ascending, they've caught Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma's been better in recent years, and it's not even close, but Texas has caught them and maybe surpassed them, even though they lost on the field, and considering the recruiting and everything else. And then you throw Texas A&M into the mix. I think that they're fairly comparable, but yes, I would put Texas and Oklahoma more in the 75 range and Texas A&M more in the maybe 65 range, but I don't think it's that egregiously different.
Okay, fair enough, Mark. And I want to go to another example of a team who probably won't finish 8-4, but if they finish 8-4, I want to hear at least some playoff talk, and that's the Florida Gators, Mark. Have you seen Florida's schedule for next year?
Well, that's what we're planning on doing. Sure.
Oh my goodness, Mark. If we can get an RIP in the chat for Florida, I mean, their schedule next year, Mark, they might win 4 games. They might win 3 games next year. It is just that brutal. And I want to hear if you're an ACC fan or a Big 12 fan, if your team goes 11-1, could they go 8-4 with this Florida schedule? It's got to be the hardest schedule in all of college football, Mark. Maybe the hardest schedule that's ever been created. I mean, it's just brutal.
We're getting to it here. Unfortunately, the site that I had pulled up has a list that why would a site do this where they have the first 3 or 4 games on one page and then they get the rest of the schedule on the next page. So anyway, here we go with Florida's 2024 schedule. Get that out of the way. We start with Miami. We don't care about Ben and J-Lo, but we've got Miami, Sanford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. We've got UCF. Interesting out-of-conference game there. Tennessee, Kentucky, and of course they're going to play Florida State. So they are playing the Florida circuit next year. Love it. Georgia, Texas. Let's look at that month right there. Good Lord. Oh, man. Look at that closing stretch. You come off that bye in which you just played Tennessee and Kentucky, which is no easy feat. But compared to this, Georgia, Texas on the road, LSU, Ole Miss, and at Florida State. Woo! Oh, man.
I told you it was brutal, Mark.
That's crazy.
If they could go 2-3 in that stretch and be a playoff team.
Well, there's no question that you're right about, and this has always been the case in college football, but even more so now and going forward, probably that there will be better teams at 8-4 than 11-1 teams.
Right. And also, I mean, you talked about conference matchups. UCF in Florida. UCF's in the Big 12, Florida's in the SEC. So if Florida wins that game and Florida goes 4-8 or 3-9, which is very possible with this schedule. I mean, that's just a black mark. Same with Miami if they beat them. Those are two of their more winnable games is Miami, Florida, and UCF. I mean, I just don't see them doing. And Billy Napier's in my opinion, going to get fired after next year with this schedule. There's just no way for him to succeed.
Yeah.
I don't see him making a bowl game with this schedule.
They could go 5-7, and we could justifiably rank them in the top 25.
Shoot, Mark, we can rank them in the top 20. We can rank them in the top 15. Georgia, Texas, Florida State. Those are all top 5 teams right there?
Who are the three? The worst teams that they're playing? Okay, forget the Sanford game. Let's look at the other 11. Mississippi State, UCF, and then probably Kentucky or Tennessee. Wow. It's just, yeah. That's a tough ride.
Yeah, I know, Mark. I feel sorry for you as an Ohio State fan because Florida could go 3-9 and take Nebraska's title as the best 3-9 team of all time. So that's brutal. I mean, that's just brutal. There's no path forward for Florida. And Greg Sankey and them talked about the formula they used. It's apparently based off your past 10 years of success, and they averaged it out. They want to create parity. And unfortunately for Florida, they're not good right now, but the formula treated them as a really good team.
Yeah, we went through that formula at the time that was released, and I'm not completely remembering how that went, but yeah, it was a pretty simple but reasonable calculation where they weren't going to penalize Georgia for being Georgia just to the hilt and say, well, you've got the best record in the conference the last 5 years. You're going to play the very best teams and the teams that have had the best record, and that's all you're playing. But it was weighted in such a way that you had to play at least a couple of the top 6 and then a couple of the bottom 6. And then the rest of it was weighted toward how good you've been over the last 10 years. Right.
And for poor Florida, that formula really...
And then they did it to themselves out of the conference, too. Not that would have changed much of that, because who knows what Florida State's going to be next year. They may take a bit of a dip. But they'll still probably be better than Florida. The Miami game's a toss-up, and they should be better than UCF. They better win that game against UCF. So they should go 2-1. Should go 2-1 in those 3 games, but still, that's a difficult non-conference schedule. Wow. Yes, this is the toughest schedule in America without me looking at anybody else's schedules.
Right. And this is something I brought up before, but can we please remove the 6-6 bowl game requirement? I know bowl games are basically meaningless at this point, but Florida could go 3-9 and be better than some 6-6 Power 5 teams. Never mind the 6-6 Group and 5 teams, Mark. I mean, and also for those people who care about TV ratings, I'm sure Florida's going to have a bigger draw in terms of TV rating than every Group of 5 team. Mark, would you agree with me there?
Sure. Again, you are basically taking your playoff approach and just extending that to the bowl season.
Correct, Mark, correct. And I try to be consistent with my takes. And the final thing I'll say, Mark, is I've adjusted my Alabama-Michigan score again. You know, this is a fluid situation, and I think the game will be somewhat closer than I had it as a 30-point win. And I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as I think it's going to be. So I'm going to go 27-0 Alabama, Mark. What do you think about that?
Wow, that's an adjustment. 63-28. We were at plus 90 points. 91 points down to 27.
Yeah, well, I think Alabama's probably going to want to pack it in. You know, you got another game coming up, and if Michigan, I don't expect them to be able to move the ball much on Alabama's defense. So I think they're just going to kind of kill the clock, kind of do a mercy type thing against them.
Michigan doesn't score.
Do you think Michigan could score? I mean, you look, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, I don't think they're going to get over 100 yards rushing combined. J.J. McCarthy, I'm not sold on him as being this elite quarterback or even a good quarterback. I think he's just played a lot of bad competition, Mark. I think Alabama's by far the most athletic team Michigan's going to see, other than Ohio State.
Okay. Well,
other than Ohio State.
We can also look at it this way, Daral. Michigan 2 years ago scored 11 points against Georgia, and that was one of the greatest defenses we've seen. And this Michigan team is better than that Michigan team.
Yeah, I just don't buy into that narrative that Georgia team was one of the greatest defenses of all time. One of the greatest defenses of all time doesn't allow 44 points to be hung up on them on a neutral site field.
Okay. Well, it was 41, and there was a pick 6 involved, so we're down to 34.
Oh, 34. Oh, that's going to, 34 is so much different than 41 or 44. So well, I'm just not sold that Georgia defense was the 85 Bears or the 0-1 Ravens. I'm just not sold on that narrative being true. Alabama could have beat them in the championship game, and if they did, would we be talking about the Georgia defense as stout as they were? I don't think so. I think we would be talking about them as a great defense, but not one of the best of all time.
Georgia held Alabama to 18 points in the national championship game.
Yeah, they made some good adjustments. Alabama had a bad fourth quarter, but up until that point, it was a coin flip game.
All right, Daral. Anything else?
No, that's all I got for you. Fight on, Mark.
Just a simple fight on from Daral tonight. Didn't have an extra line for us. Not a tagline tonight. This Florida schedule is incredibly tough. Incredibly tough. And we were going to march through all the SEC schedules for 2024, but that looks like it's going to be a video in my future because, man, we got lined up with calls all of a sudden. See, when Chris was on here, he was the only show in town. We had no backup calls. Now we're sitting on about 6. So we'll go to Jackson. Jackson, what's going on tonight?
Oh, it's going pretty good, Mark. How's it going with you tonight?
It's going just fine. What's up?
Well, I was thinking about how LSU Oklahoma is on rivalry week next season. And I'll be honest, I thought they were going to reluctantly put Oklahoma Missouri on rivalry week and then bring back LSU Arkansas on Black Friday. But I guess they didn't because they kind of figured, Oklahoma, Missouri or LSU, Oklahoma. Nah, we're going to make it LSU, Oklahoma the better draw. And besides, nobody's waiting 20 years for that game to come back again. We're bringing it. We're bringing it on. Because I remember they were having it scheduled before Oklahoma joined the SEC. They were going to play that game in the late 2020s, and they moved it to the 2030s. Now we don't have to wait till the 2030s for that game to come back.
Yeah. So what else stands out to you?
Well, I know that the Florida Cup is back for 2024 with Florida, Miami, and Florida State all playing one another.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I want to see that happen more often, but it is pretty exciting that Texas A&M is back on rivalry week. But the
And not
question,
just Florida, Florida State, Miami. You've got the UCF matchup with Florida.
oh yeah, that's gonna be 11 Power 5 games. I'm loving it. I am loving it. I know that Alabama, Oklahoma is gonna be on the week before rivalry week. That's gonna be a fun matchup. Kentucky, Texas. That's gonna be a bad night for Kentucky.
So this is the week before rivalry weekend, and we've got just the UMass Georgia game, and we've just got the Wofford South Carolina game in terms of those UTEP and Tennessee in terms of the layups that we've seen. So less of those, meant far fewer of those type of games.
Nice. There we go. But I know that Black Friday is going to be Arkansas, Missouri, as it has been for the last several years. But I wonder if they're going to consider doing a Thanksgiving doubleheader with Texas and Texas A&M and Ole Miss, Mississippi State, or if they're just going to stay with Ole Miss, Mississippi State being the sole game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so like you're saying here, with Oklahoma in the mix against LSU, Texas A&M. Yeah, I would think that they would want to do something with Texas A&M, either make that a Black Friday game, or wouldn't that be awesome to have it's really not that viable on Thanksgiving though, because they don't want to compete with the
Iron
NFL
Bowl.
doubleheader. I know that the NFL goes with the night game now, but the traditional doubleheader with the NFL, and they don't have a Western enough team to play a late night game, but it would be cool to have a Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M doubleheader.
Oh, that'd be sweet. I mean, you put like Texas A&M on ABC, and then you have Ole Miss, Mississippi State on ESPN. I just wonder what time. Well, I guess they're going to save Oklahoma, LSU for nighttime and keep Alabama, Auburn at 2:30, like they have been the past several years.
I
But
don't know.
But I know, like, one thing that's just been I've been thinking about was LSU Arkansas. They don't know where to put that game. I mean, last year this season they put it in September. Next season they're going to put it in October 19th. They're just thinking, oh, what do we do, Scoob? Where are we putting the battle for the Golden Boot?
Yeah, the battle for the Golden Boot, for as much as I've enjoyed that game, and it's been a staple on Fridays until a few years, well, about 10 years ago, obviously, when Mizzou joined the SEC. To the folks down there, maybe on the Arkansas side, it means a lot. Talking to LSU people, I don't think that they really care. So I don't know that that's really a rivalry at this point, that the SEC is, staying up nights trying to figure out how to showcase it.
Oh man. I got so many memories of that LSU Arkansas game from back in the day. Oh man. But I will say I am pretty glad Texas Arkansas is coming back, but I figured they were going to try to put it on the week after the Red River rivalry, but they have it on November 16th. So that will be pretty cool to watch that game.
Yeah. All right. Anything else, Jackson?
That's about all for tonight, and It's going to be awesome seeing the rest of the 2024 SEC schedule, and I can't wait for the ACC schedule and the Big 12 schedule getting out soon. That'll be great.
All right, man. Good to see you.
Thanks for good to
Have a
see you
good night.
too, Mark. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jackson. All right, we will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. If I did not mention, I don't think I've said this for quite some time, probably months and months and months and months, but you know, we got an Amazon link and it's in the description section of all the videos. And so when you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. You can grab that link, put it somewhere where you will remember it, won't forget it. And Christmas shopping, it is not too late. I did mine all in one swoop. Boom. I only had 3 people to buy for. So I bought for those 3 people, did all my shopping one night. Psh, Amazon link. Bam. There we go. Shopped it. Got it done. Everything arrived safe and sound. And then I will wait until the very last second to wrap all that stuff, which is going to be about, wow, it's going to be probably a good 12 to 15 gifts to have to wrap, but we'll take care of that. All right, next up here at the Voice of College Football. Did I mention there's an Amazon link in the description section of all the videos? Yes, George. George, what's going
Mark,
on?
am I going to get one of those first-time caller things?
First-time caller? Well,
Okay, fine. Never
it's been
mind.
a long time.
Hey, there's somebody in the chat that said if Florida goes 3-9, they should make the playoffs next year, and I agree. Don't you?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
We need to get those Gators in. I want to see you.
If we
playoff
win the last
mode.
3 games on our schedule, we should be in the playoffs.
Are you lost in a fog or something?
Is it my phone?
No, you're fine. You're fine. If you don't want to appear on camera, that's
No,
quite all right.
I can't appear on camera. I've been up since 3 a.m. I've had 8 beers. I haven't
Only
got a shower,
8?
but other than that, I'm perfectly fine. Hey, Mark.
Yes.
My brother sent me one of those machines where you check your blood pressure, right?
Yes.
And I do it like every other month. And every time I do it, I Google, is 170 over 110 good? And it says, go to the emergency room immediately. You're dying. Isn't that funny?
Well, it sounds like your brother was sending you a message.
I think it's a defective machine.
Oh, okay. Well, have you had your blood pressure checked professionally?
No, I'm afraid of doctors. Every time I get near them, they give me some kind of pills. And then I Google what are the lethal effects of whatever that name of that pill is. And I'm like, what the? And then I say the F word. I'm like, I think I'll just take my chances with cayenne pepper. I made chicken soup yesterday, Mark, and today I wake up and I eat a bowl of chicken soup, for breakfast.
Chicken soup.
Yeah,
sounds
from
good.
scratch. Boiled the whole chicken, onions, celery, carrots, the whole 9 yards. It's good stuff. My dad owned restaurants. It's like the first thing he ever taught us how to make chicken soup,
Yeah, that
But
sounds
it's so
really good.
easy. You can do it
I've
in
been
5
trying to
minutes.
make chicken soup in a long, long time, and the only thing I've eaten today would be 2 cream sticks and a bowl of cereal.
Wow, you sound like one of my kids, man.
I met
What are you
my
doing?
buddy for breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts. I cannot walk into a Dunkin' Donuts and not get a couple of they're not called cream sticks, but whatever they call them, they're cream filled. And then I got busy this afternoon and just shoved down a bowl of cereal. But yeah, I got to go for something better than that. Chicken
We're
soup.
all living on the power of the Holy Spirit, Mark. It doesn't matter what we do, right? If you're meant to be here,
Some of us are.
right? Oh, there's no other explanation for how we're still standing upright. Just the stress of the transfer portal is enough to take us all out,
Well, don't stress it, George. Don't do that.
It's like you build a team, and bam, 27 of them transfer. You're like, there's only 22 guys on both sides of the ball, and you have 27 transfers. You're like, what the? I don't
Yeah,
like
somebody
it.
told me the other day, one of the writers that come on here, that the national average is going to be about 30 player turnover per team is average.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you a question? What if they all said, listen, we got to hand this over to an arbitrary person, a follower of college football, and they would have let you choose the playoffs this year? What would you have done?
Well, George, do you want me to select the 4 best teams in the
Yeah.
country or the 4
No,
that
no.
made it?
Whatever you say, man. You understand it's TV. We want
All right.
2 good games and a
Okay.
final.
All right. Okay, if you're going to lay it out that way, we want good games.
Not only what teams would you have picked, but how would you have matched them up to get to the finals?
Okay. That's going to be kind of difficult. Okay, I got it. We're going to have to massage things a little bit here, because you're going to be able to see this, that really the seedings are going to have to be manipulated a little bit. But for the TV sake of the best matchups, the best teams, the best talent, everything, if I am the commissioner of college football, and way beyond the commissioner, I'm like a czar.
No, you're the man. You're the man. You have to pick the playoffs and match the team ups to get to the finals. It's on you.
Yes.
We got to
matchup.
trust somebody. We got to hand it over to someone we trust. How would you have handled it this year? 4 teams, one playoff final.
4 matchup. Our 1 versus 4 is Alabama and Ohio State. Our 2-3 matchup is Michigan and Georgia.
Nice.
That's your
Listen,
playoff.
that's what I had. But the only reason I said that is I read a comment one day in somebody's football channel show, and that's what the guy said. And I said, that's the most proper thing ever. That's really what it should be. And we're about to find out that's what it should be. We're going to see it unfold in real life. It should have been those teams.
Ralph in the chat is asking me why Ohio State's number 1. They're not number 1, they're number 4. And also, I would not have an issue with negotiating Ohio State out and Texas in. I think it would be just as good of a playoff.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I would flip a coin on that one.
Yes, I think that's extremely close. So when I say
I would do a fair
I think Texas is right there.
A fair coin toss. I agree. A fair coin toss. No fooling around. Whoever heads or tails, Ohio State or Texas.
I would reseed it. If that were the case, I would reseed it, and I would go Michigan 1 against Georgia, against Texas 4, and then Alabama would play. Where am I? No, we don't want Alabama and Georgia playing again. So I guess it's got to be a Michigan 1. Yeah, Michigan 1, Georgia 4, Texas and Bama have a rematch at 2 and 3. There we go. Yep.
Well, we've got what we've got for this year, and I agree 100% with what you just said. That you're a genius at the seeding and the reseeding, and they really should just hand it over to you. That could be like your job. You get like $1 million a year to pick the playoff teams and seed them. That's all you do. You watch every game. You're like,
I would make that deal. I got to watch every game. I get paid $1 million even, and I just select the playoffs and seed the teams.
Right.
Perfect.
And your first decree is there are no buys in the college football playoffs.
No
Either
buys.
add more teams or subtract teams,
Yes.
but nobody's sitting out a week. You got to be kidding me.
George is on it tonight.
And
Absolutely.
ABC is behind you because they want more games,
Yeah,
sitting out my ass.
We'll go with my system up to 16. I get $1 million. George $1 million. I understand in this economy, it's not quite as much as it would have been a few years ago, but I'll still take the mill. And I like that setup.
Hey, if that works out, I get $500, and my address is 3727 Southeast Fifth. Never mind. I won't do that on there.
Please don't do that to yourself.
That was funny though.
Now, yeah, I'll give you more than $500. Much more than 500.
You just do a shout out. I
How
don't need
about
the
10
money.
grand?
10 grand, I'll settle
You
for
get
that.
a finder's fee of 10 grand.
I'm gonna use that to bulletproof the doors on my helicopter. That's about 10 grand. Bulletproof glass, bulletproof doors.
Well, George, anything else for us tonight?
Damn, we were talking about football. Yeah, I had so many things to say about
keeping it
Florida's
up.
schedule. Listen, Kirby
Good
Smart
speech.
should come out publicly and say, I want Florida's schedule and give Florida our schedule. Now, imagine if you flip those two schedules. That would be fair. We're rebuilding. They're a powerhouse. I want to see Georgia play that goddamn schedule. You talk about TV ratings. There's your TV ratings. Give Georgia Florida's schedule. And now we have some football games to watch, you know?
Yeah, your boy Billy, I don't know. He's going to have a rough year.
Well, taking a quote from Billy, what does he say? He always says, right? Like it's a question mark, you know? And then he has another thing he says, like, you know, or you know what I mean, or some dumbass thing. I'm just so tired of it.
All right, George. Good to
So
have
what
you
do you
on
think?
tonight, man.
Is it possible? Is there a mechanism that Georgia could take Florida's schedule before we can do it right now? It's not too late. Just give us Georgia's schedule and
other priorities in line. Other things we need to address besides that.
Well, that would be exciting to see Georgia play Florida's schedule, or give it to Alabama. We'll take Alabama's schedule. Give it to the top guy in the SEC. Why is Florida playing Florida's schedule when that should be the schedule for the best team in the Southeastern Conference? Like, run this gauntlet, play this schedule. Why would they give it to Florida?
They have it out for Billy Napier, apparently.
You know what I think it is? Disney owns ESPN, right?
Yes.
And they hate Florida. Disney hates Florida, right? Because Ron DeSantis just took away their tax exemption and took away their water rights and hounded them into hell, right? So FSU didn't go to the playoffs, and Florida got the worst schedule next year. And I can't even imagine what Miami gets 5,000 fans a week. You know, Disney's going to take the whole state down and ruin college football in the process. But other than that, I love Walt Disney.
All right, George.
All right.
A lot of patient people here.
Hey,
so
B Bean wants to know what kind of cereal.
I would have to go get it. It was a very healthy something that was suggested to me that I don't remember the name of it. So there you go.
All right, Bean. Thanks for the question, though.
I'll go get the wrapper. We'll find out.
All right.
All right, George.
Later, Mark.
Okay, let's keep it moving. We got Mike here. Mike, what's going on tonight?
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I can't complain.
All right. You coming along?
Yeah, I'm managing. Because I was actually thinking about a solution to all of college football's problems.
All of them. Okay.
Yeah. Just for parity, because, you know, since the SEC are like gods among men and they're like better than everybody to the point where
they have been.
6-6 teams should get in the playoffs in the SEC more than 11-1 non-SEC teams. Why doesn't the NFL have something like the G League for NBA?
Are you being serious? Of course,
Why
you're not. But
well, I mean, you know, just have yourself, kind of like a NFL version of a G League. That way, all the the high talent guys, or if you just take the entire SEC and just ship them over to the G League, and let the rest of the schlubs play the normal NCAA college football.
Because we want to see the best players play. That's why.
Well, I mean, you can still see the best players in the G League, can't you? Or the NFL, whatever they would call it.
Bean is rather amused with your use of schlubs.
Well, I mean, I guess it's just, it's addressing the elephant in the room that, if the SEC is just that much better than everybody, and to the point that they're going to get so much benefit of the doubt where even a mid-level SEC team is going to get more credit than a top-tier non-SEC team. We can just, for the sake of parity, we can just separate them out and then have everybody else play in a league.
Well, everything that you just said is obviously not the case or not true. Will they get some favoritism based on what they've earned? Sure. There's a 9-3 team in the Big 12, or even a 10-2 team in the Big 12, and a 9-3 team in the SEC. Yeah, they're going to make the playoffs, the SEC team. And unless things are drastically different than what they've been for the last 15 years, then they should.
Well, yeah, and if it's between 9-3 SEC and 9-3 Big 12 or 9-3 ACC, that's one thing. But why don't we just make it to where 9-3 SEC team gets in over an 11-1 Big 12 team or 11-1 ACC team? I mean, okay, so
they might be better.
They could.
I don't know. I have to wait and see. But up until now, the committee's not done that.
Well, I would argue that they just did when they made these playoffs.
Well, this is okay. You are correct. This is the first time that the SEC's been elevated. There is no other time that the SEC has received a bid over a team with a better record until this year. Now they have broken the tie with the SEC and given the SEC the favoritism in terms of two teams with the same record. And yes, Alabama made it in over Florida State. But how many people really think that Florida State's better? I get the committee's decision. I just don't agree with it, but I get it. It's easy to defend.
Yeah,
I can defend it. Their quarterback got hurt, and their offense sucks now with a backup quarterback, or at least that's what they showed in one game, and then the third stringer in the other game.
Well, and I'm not going to argue that. I think the general consensus is that Alabama is a better team than Florida State, and I would agree. But we have a history where 4 deserving has gotten in over 4 best pretty steadily over the last several years.
Yes.
So, the idea that they're going to take a sharp U-turn on this one kind of makes me wonder what's up.
But again, I'm sticking up for the committee, and I hate to do that because I'm generally right there with you. And I have produced enough live streams and videos condemning this selection. However, it's not like the committee made up the injury criteria. It's been in place since day one, 2014, and they're just using it.
Yeah, it's almost like in case of emergency, break glass type of rule.
Well, no. How many times has there been a contending team with an injured quarterback? That doesn't happen. That's not like they can use that whenever they want. There has to be an injured quarterback.
Yeah. Like I said, this is the emergency where they broke the glass. I guess I don't get this whole, Florida should schedule more favorable teams. They have, the SEC only has 8 conference games. Just do like South Carolina. Let me see here. South Carolina, their non-conference is Old Dominion, Akron, and Wofford. Okay, so just do that. And Clemson.
Yes.
Congratulations on Clemson. And Clemson's kind of down right now, but
well, regardless of how down they are, you just read off a non-conference schedule that's better than most teams in the Big Ten.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's
I
playing
guess.
Clemson in the Big Ten?
Okay, but we're talking Old Dominion, Akron.
I don't care what the
and
rest of that
Wofford.
schedule is. You just put Clemson on the schedule, and you have trumped every Big Ten schedule outside of Ohio State playing Notre Dame on the road.
Even this year?
Yeah. Who played a better team, non-conference, than Clemson? Nobody, except Ohio State playing Notre Dame on the road.
And I would think that would get negated by the fact that the Big Ten plays 9 conference games instead of SEC's 8.
Yes, that's your better point. And South Carolina, I don't know if they lined this schedule up knowing that their conference schedule was going to become even more difficult because Vandy's no longer guaranteed every year. Kentucky's no longer guaranteed. Missouri's no longer guaranteed. And they will have to see either Oklahoma and Texas just about every year. So I don't know if they were preparing for that and they gutted their schedule because South Carolina has typically played a pretty difficult non-conference schedule. This year they played Clemson and North Carolina.
Yeah. Well, they usually play North Carolina most years than not, don't they?
Yeah, they've played them a lot recently. Yes.
I mean, I honestly feel bad. I feel worse for the Big Ten West because now the non-Iowa teams don't really have that insulation factor anymore. You know, Nebraska and Northwestern and Illinois and Purdue, they don't have the luxury of, playing each other. Now they get thrown the wolves.
Yeah, well, when we did this same thing, and we have yet to do it tonight, but looking at the Big Ten schedule when that was announced, oh my goodness. And you were probably here. I basically took every team in the Big Ten, and especially the teams in the West, to give a direct comparison between 2023 or what the typical schedule is for a Big Ten West team and 2024 and beyond. And it's just, like a team like Iowa, they're actually a bad example to a certain extent because they will play Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Nebraska every year. They've got the most permanent teams. But even Iowa, Purdue, Illinois, Northwestern are the other 3. They're usually going to play not all 3. They'll play like 1. And they're picking up an extra Big Ten East team. And then they're picking up 1 or 2 West Coast teams. So they've replaced Illinois, Northwestern, and Purdue with like Michigan, UCLA, and Washington.
Yeah, they got it rough.
And that's for anybody checking me. I'm not saying that verbatim for next year, but that's what it basically is. That type of replacement.
Yeah, and I remember going on Corey's cast whenever the Big Ten schedule next year first came out, and we were going through it, on the StreamYard, and I said I was probably a 6-6 team next year, and that of course got me some big boos and laughs and mockery in the Iowa chat room, as you can expect, because I had them as a bunch of, including I had them losing to Troy, because now this was before Summerall got hired by over by Tulane. I mean, I thought that Troy had a really good shot at beating Iowa before they lost Summerall, because I mean Troy's been really good as of late.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just in recent memories, they beat LSU in Baton Rouge, they beat Nebraska and Lincoln. I mean, they've been kind of a Power 5 killer as of late.
Yeah, they've been really good.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I want to see what happens with the. I wish I could just kind of fast forward to December of 2024, just briefly, just to see how it all plays out. Because my concern is that it's gonna, out of the 12 teams, half of them are going to be SEC, because the committee just tends to favor them too high.
Well, this year it would be what? Bama, Georgia, Missouri, Texas. Those 4 for sure.
They'll probably sneak Ole Miss in.
Oh, Ole Miss. Yeah, they would be in this year. That's 5. So I guess they would have 5, and Oklahoma would be awfully close. They would only be one spot away.
Yeah, and they probably would sneak in if they didn't have the mandatory G5 rule.
But those teams all earned it. Who didn't earn it? Those teams all have better records than the teams below them. It's not like they're being elevated.
Yeah, I guess with Ole Miss beating LSU.
Yeah, what I'm saying is those aren't 9-3 SEC teams that are being ranked by the committee higher than 10-2 teams in other conferences.
Yeah, because the schedules, like I said, I think the records this year are much higher than they're going to be next year. Like I said, this year, I mean, we had 3 undefeateds. Yeah. I would be really shocked if we had 3 undefeateds next year. I would say I would put the over under at like 1.
Yeah, I was actually surprised this year. I did not do a good job. I'll have to go through. Now that we've played the season, go through my 12 game predictions, my regular season picks, and see how close I was on records, which I usually do fairly well on that. But I was off. I thought that there were going to be losses for the playoff teams.
Yeah. And I honestly wouldn't surprise me next year if 1 or more 2-loss teams were got a home playoff game.
Yes.
I mean, I just think the records are going to start regressing to the mean a lot more next year because the schedules just get so much tougher across the board. I mean, you got with Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC and Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA coming in the Big Ten, it's going to be hard to run that gauntlet. It'd be hard, honestly. Even an 11-1 would be impressive. I mean, I think there's going to be a whole lot of 10-2s
this year. Going to the far right column, Missouri, Ole Miss are 10-2. Oklahoma's 10-2. So it's not like anybody's being falsely overranked. And you would have out of the SEC, Texas, Bama, Georgia 3, Missouri 4, and Ole Miss 5. You would have 5 SEC teams. You would have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. Oh, I missed Washington and Oregon. You'd have 5. So you'd have 5. Well, you got to have the Big 12 and the so you wouldn't have that because you've got to have the champions from the Big 12 and the ACC.
That would actually be kind of a funny thing because, geez, I mean, if the playoffs were today, you'd have a couple of rematches.
Yeah, you would. Ole Miss and Georgia and Ohio State and Penn State line up as rematches.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering how that's going to play out because, I mean, there's some people talking scenarios of some team, and I know a lot of people are talking Michigan, Ohio State, with the potential of playing 3 times in the season. Now, the odds of that happening are pretty low, but it would be kind of interesting to see like a best of 3 series.
They are pretty low, but between what's going on right now with Ohio State and Michigan and with Alabama and Georgia, it could happen somewhere. And those are the 2 most likely candidates.
Yep. I figured it's Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, Michigan. I mean, just from the fact that, the odds of this happening to any conference besides the SEC and the Big Ten are probably pretty low.
Yes.
Well, like I said, I just wanted to give my 2 cents.
Well, thanks for being here, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Have a good night. See
you.
You
Too.
We got a good call coming up here, but first we got a super chat. James, thank you so much. Appreciate your 2 spot there. Without Don Brown's signals, former Michigan defensive coordinator, Ryan Day can't beat Michigan. No, he hasn't. I don't know that he can't. They've played 3 times. All right, James. Thank you so much for that. Look at this. We got TF here tonight.
Yo, yo, yo. What's going
There he
on,
is.
buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. So, I just wanted to get your take on something real fast. I don't know if I've had a chance to hear you voice your opinion on it, but what do you think about Florida State getting in over? No, I'm just kidding. We don't need to go back down that road.
Yes, I have hours of video.
Almost more,
live
maybe
streams on
conference
here
realignment.
ranting about it.
Maybe more than conference realignment. Not quite yet, but the year's not over. So
The year's not over. Yes.
right. So I won't keep you. I'm sure you got a whole lot of people, but I had one thing I wanted to clear up real fast.
Yes.
Was I'm about to do your bowl pick'em that you put out there that I think everybody should join, which looks really fun.
Yeah.
And
oh boy, you're going to clear something up with me. Joey set that thing up. Let's see what you got.
Okay, well, my question for you was: are we picking the spread, or are we? I know we're picking confidence points.
They're confidence picks. Are they showing the spread?
Well, I mean, here it has like Ohio plus 120, Georgia Southern negative 140.
That's showing the money line on the
right.
game.
So I don't know. Are we picking anything with that, or are we just picking winners?
Well, if you pick that, you're still just picking the winners.
Right. So we have no spreads in this or anything like that.
I
right?
sure hope not. I asked Joey to do a confidence.
Right. It does have the confidence points, but I just wanted to make sure. Normally, when I've done them, they've
They're
had
just showing you the odds for some reason, just to give you
right. Okay.
an idea. It shouldn't be against the spread.
Okay. I didn't think it was. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something that I wasn't, because I'm going to win this. I mean, everybody out there, you know.
I am going to grab the link, and I'm going to put the link in the chat. And I thank you so much, TF, for reminding me, because we kind of threw this together. Somebody said to me a few nights ago, hey, you should do a Bowl Mania Bowl Challenge. And I said, you know what? You're right. This is the kind of stuff I don't think about. Joey.
Right. Where's Joey? No, it looks cool. It looks like a lot of fun. Do you let's see, I can look at it right now. Groups, how many people we got? We got quite a few people in there.
Oh, okay.
Looks like we have looks like about 25, maybe 30 people in there already. Everybody out there should join this thing right now.
Yes, I'm gonna grab the link, make it easy for everyone. And there we go. Yes.
And does that link, does it give like the code to get in and all that?
No. Where was the code?
Well, so if everybody goes to a community post that Mark Rogers posted on his main page right here on the Voice of College Football, if you go down to the community post, all that information is right there.
Oh. Now, how did I? Okay. I see everyone there. Yeah, that's quite a good group there. All right. Well done, Joey. Well, I just mentioned this maybe once, and I put the post up in the community.
Yeah, I put it on as a community post on mine too. I copied yours. So
thank you.
If everybody does that, maybe we can get a lot of people, because the more people I beat at stuff like this, the happier I am. So all of you just line up for your butt whipping, because TF's coming for you.
And I got to say sorry to everyone that I cannot tell you what you're going to win, but you are going to win something from the Voice of College Football merchandise store. Let's go top 3. We can go top 3. Then we need to have a good losers category, a good losers prize for dead last.
I like Mike Ford. He says, this ain't trivia, TF. I can beat you here. All right, Mike Ford, bring it on, brother. Bring it on. All right, cool, Mark. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to clear that up, and anybody else that has questions, no, it is just confidence points all the way over to the right. So you're going to adjust everything up and down as to how confident you are on which game you are more confident it's going to win. It's pretty self-explanatory, but just pick the winners.
Well, thanks for jumping on and explaining that to everyone, and just reminding me, like I tell John D'Adamo all the time, everyone else does a much better job of promoting my channel than I do.
Well,
I get on here and start talking college football and forget, hey, we actually have to sell this stuff.
Yeah, you got to put it out there. You know, if you build it, they will come, Mark. Yeah, but you have to let them know it's built. So, all right, brother, love you, man. Everybody have a great night. And join that thing up right now. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Appreciate you, TF.
All right, see you, Mark.
All right, and I'm dropping the link in the chat right now. Join our bowl challenge. Top three. Looks like my camera got smudged. Top 3 win prizes from the Voice of College Football merch store, which I understand there's going to be a whole new line of merch. And it looks like it's come that time where I have to make the decision. Do I go get another haircut or do I let my hair grow out for the winter? If I let it grow out for the winter, then I'm going to be disgusted about every 9 out of 10 days. It's going to annoy me. But about 1 out of 10 days, I'm going to be like, oh, I like it longer. Yeah, and none of you care about that. All right. We've got a clean deck, and we've hit the magic mark of 7:30. We did want to look at this transfer portal. Good Lord. So no more calls. Transfer portal. That's not it. What's coming down? We've got former Washington State standout wide receiver Josh Kelly has committed to Texas Tech. That has just come down in the last hour. Josh Kelly to Texas Tech. We have 16 players so far from Georgia on their way out. Had quite a exchange on Twitter today concerning Ohio State's defections, where I stated basically, because I saw a Michigan site that made the comment that Julian Fleming, Ohio State wide receiver, is going to Penn State, has committed to Penn State, and that the program is crumbling in Columbus. It's just in disarray, shattered. It's a mess in Columbus because they've lost a backup running back, their third best wide receiver, maybe not even that once the kids start playing next year. And that's who they've lost. Oh, and Kyle McCord. Yes. So Ohio State is just falling apart. And I just responded by basically saying, let's not make a narrative out of one person's decision. Oh, well, Ohio State, they've had 12 transfer portal losses. And okay, Georgia's had 16. And none of those guys were playing except for 2 of them. So not a huge deal. Illinois getting the Youngstown State grad transfer defensive lineman Anthony Johnson. Just in the last hour, we've got Georgia 5-star freshman cornerback A.J. Harris in the transfer portal. Wow. So look at this. This is college football today. This is the current state of college football. We've got a shot of Kirby Smart and cornerback A.J. Harris, a 5-star. This picture is less than a year old. And here we are 11 months later, and A.J. Harris, I'm gone. See ya. Okay. Georgia star linebacker Jamon Dumas Johnson now officially in the transfer portal. Preseason first-team All-America, limited in his playing time because of injuries this year. 70 tackles, 4 sacks for the Bulldogs in 22. If you want a nice bracelet, here we go. We've got UCLA landed their 3rd transfer this week in Notre Dame receiver Rico Flores. Coming back to California. Breaking Florida transfer, former 4-star defensive end from Manor, Texas. Princely, let's not try to pronounce his last name. Human Milan has committed to Ole Miss. We talked about that the other day. We did see that coming. Auburn wide receiver Javarius Johnson. He's in the portal. He's caught 64 balls in his career. Tennessee DB Danico Slaughter is committed to Arkansas. Man, looks like I should do a bunch of videos on this. Former Texas quarterback Malik Murphy. Where is he going to? Oh, visiting Duke. Must be a smart kid. He's also transferring or visiting these possible transfer locations of Baylor and Oregon State. Malik Murphy, Baylor, Oregon State, Duke. LSU lands its second portal edition of the day. Wide receiver Xavier Thomas. Mississippi State goes to LSU. So he'll be playing his former teammates. Transfer cornerback Aiden Garnes has committed to West Virginia. Michigan State transfer wide receiver Terrell Henry goes to Wisconsin. He caught 24 passes last year and 3 touchdowns. This is in the last day, not even the last day. This is a big battle right here. Wake Forest wide receiver Jamal Banks, really good player, visiting or at least targeted by, and I believe I saw where he's visiting Michigan, also targeted by Vandy, Minnesota, Purdue, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Georgia Tech, Boston College, and Charlotte, and others. LSU picks up Texas A&M safety Jordan Gilbert. On and on and on and on. Former Vandy quarterback A.J. Swan has visited LSU. Ohio State defensive back Ryan Turner has committed to Boston College. Kyle Kennard, Georgia Tech defensive lineman, to South Carolina. Zach Carpenter, we talked about him on our Miami show on Wednesday night. He could be the replacement for Matt Lee, one of the best centers in the ACC in 2024. He visited Coral Gables here this week. And we'll just hit one more here because we've gone back 11 hours and you see how crazy it is. Colby Young, former Miami wide receiver, caught 47 passes for 563 and 5 touchdowns. A New York native visiting Penn State. And again, Robbie Ashford, who's battled for the starting job at Auburn, originally signed at Oregon, transfer portal. Dante Moore has visited Oregon. That's where he originally committed. Georgia offensive tackle transfer Austin Blasky going to North Carolina. Michigan fans, you're familiar with Nakai Hill-Green, former Wolverine and Charlotte player, goes to UCF. There's Avante Williams, who was a top 50 recruit, went to Miami, then transferred to Maryland. He's in the transfer portal. We've got 3 and 4 team players now that will be leaving college, having played for 3 and 4 teams. Kyle McCord, Ohio State, looking around. Syracuse is a possibility. And yeah, it's just crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, folks, appreciate you being here. We will also check out, again, we've got, well, I've lost a few things here in our shuffling of tabs. That's okay. Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. Grab the Amazon link. Grab the merch link. I don't have it right now. Unfortunately, I thought I did. And we've got Conference Players of the Year. Those are being announced on Twitter as we speak. Ran through those. Also, Yes, look at Moose. Shop Amazon. George, we'll catch you next time. 1 call per show. And we are done for the night. Appreciate you being here. Bowl season starts Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll see you then. We'll be live at some point on Saturday, and we'll be cranking out videos and doing what we do on a big football day. See you then.